comfortable with how the world looks like through the FPV, through your FPV goggles, and you really want to have, you want to have that nailed down, that kind of spatial awareness, because when you're trying to go through, tight spaces, or even just cruising through the field, when you're a beginner, everything, the whole world seems infinite. Before you know it, you're 100 feet up in the air, or you're flying like 2 inches off the ground. So when you finally get that spatial awareness, then that's gonna really help you control your quad, and have that sense of navigation. All right, so before we get started in FPV flying, you want to get comfortable just with the sticks first. So a lot of you might have come already from one of those toy drones, maybe from a Phantom. So first things first is you want to keep it on self-angle mode first, self-level, or angle mode. And a lot of these pro FPV pilots say, no, go ahead, go straight to acro mode. That's the fastest way you're gonna learn. But first things first for me is that we want to practice safety, because we want to keep our surroundings safe. We want to keep the other bystanders safe. And if you go into acro mode, it's like you are driving a Formula 1 car, and you don't even have mastered your driving a regular car. You don't even have your license yet. So first things first, you want to put it in self-level mode. We will just be doing some hovering and hovering exercise. And if you have not yet mastered hovering yet, I recommend that you do this and really practice and go along with these drills. So these are going to be more on drills. Again, if you came from a toy quad or a DJI, then if you're flying, if you're trying to hover one of these race quads for the very first time, it's gonna feel a lot different, because they have different specs of they have really higher spec motors and everything. So anyway, without further ado, let's go through these drills. So the first drill that we're going to be practicing today is just hovering your quad. So you want to place your quad like 1 meter or 2 meters right in front of you, just so you have that distance between your quad, and you have you have a safety margin between you and the quad, because those propellers, when they're spinning, they can cut you, or might require stitches if that happens. So you always want to make sure that it's like 1 meter or 2 meters away from you. So once you arm your quad, you're just going to punch your throttle up about 1/3 to maybe at most 1/2 throttle, and that's going to bring your quad up in the air. Now what you need to be mastering here is throttle control. So you want to keep your quad between a foot high in the air to a maximum of 3 feet high in the air. And when you first start doing this, your drone is going to bob up and down, as you still don't have that fine motor control. But if you keep practicing this, then you will be able to maintain your quad between a foot and 3 feet in the air. Now you also want to do this while you're in self-level mode or angle mode when you're starting, so that at least the quad tries to maintain a level attitude. So it's still going to drift to the left, right, forwards and backwards. And what you need to do is, with your right stick, if you're in mode 2, which controls pitch and roll, if your drone starts drifting to the right, you push the stick to the left. If it starts drifting forward, you push the stick to the back. Basically what your drone is doing, you want to do the opposite with your stick. And also take note that to do this, the rear of your drone must always be pointing at you at all times. So we won't be touching our yaw sticks for this drill, and we are keeping our drill 2 meters out in front of us, between 1 foot high and 3 feet high. And we want to keep that position as long as we can. Maybe finish a battery or 2 batteries, or if you can do this for 5 batteries, then I would recommend until you master this skill. Now you also want to make sure that your emergency protocols are in place. So for example, if you start panicking, you lose control, and your quad is 30 feet in the air, what you need to do is you just bring your throttle down, lower it until your quad starts descending. If you're really panicking, if it's really high or going, it's already out there, then you can just disarm your quad and let your drone crash to the ground, because it's better to have your drone crash to the ground maybe so you can be able to recover it. Maybe you'll have to repair it, but at least you prevent it from from losing your quad or maybe damaging other property or people. So the next drill that we're going to do is we are going to physically rotate our body, and while still maintaining that hover, keeping that drone right in front of us, around about a meter in front of us. So we will be needing to turn our yaw and also adjusting our pitch and roll just to make sure that it stays steady in front. And also we're still mastering our throttle control. So if you notice that the rear of the quad is always pointing at us, and you want to practice this rotating left and rotating clockwise and rotating counterclockwise, and we're still going to maintain that hover. You want to keep that rear pointing at you, so at least you don't get confused with the stick controls. But yeah, you want to practice this as much as you can. Maybe finish a battery or 2 batteries or 3 batteries until you're completely comfortable with this. And once you're finished with this drill, we're going to go on to the next drill, which is actually moving the quad forwards and backwards. So just like what we did right now, we are still going to be following our quad. We are physically moving our body, but we're maintaining that hover of our drone like a meter in front of us. So while we're walking, we want to keep that drone right in front of us. So it's going to be challenging at first, but if you just continue doing this for a while, your mind will start syncing with your quad, and as you walk, it'll feel more natural for you to hover that quad in front of you. When you're turning, feel more comfortable when you yaw, and then you're also rolling to the left or to the right wherever you're going, so that you can always maintain that hover. So practice this for you want to practice this a lot of times. Spend a lot of batteries, use up a lot of batteries just practicing this drill, and in no time you will be more comfortable flying this LOS. Alright, so right now we're still in angle mode, and if you're just starting, then you want to stay in angle mode until you master that throttle control and throttle management. Now right now we're going to be going into acro mode, and the main thing different with acro mode is that if you let go of the sticks, the drone will not put itself back into level. So if in angle mode, if you move your stick to the right and keep it at a certain position, then your drone will tilt to the right and stay in that position, proportional to how much deflection you have on your stick or how much movement you have on your stick. And if you let go, it's going to go back to the center. So if you're in acro mode, then the dynamics are very much different. So when you tilt your stick to the right, it's going to keep rotating to the right until you let go and bring it back to center. And when you bring it back to center, it's not going to self-level. The drone will not self-level itself. It's going to stay where you left it. So it's going to move to the right until you put some left stick and bring it back to the center manually. So I talk a little bit about angle mode and acro mode in my video, Best Drone for Beginners. So you want to watch that as well, but in the meantime, let's go do these drills with the same drills that we did earlier, but this time in acro mode. Alright, so the last drill that we are going to be doing in this episode is that we are going to go through all of the drills that we did earlier, except this time we want the drill to be nose in towards us. So previously we had the back pointing at us or tail in. Right now we want it to be nose in or pointing or joints pointing at us. And the key difference is that previously, if you remember that if you wanted to correct the drift, you counteracted it with the opposite motion from where the drift is going. And this time we're going to be doing exactly the opposite, since it's now pointing at us. So for example, if the drone is drifting to the right, you want to push your stick also where it's going, which is push it to the right. So if it's drifting to the left, then you push your stick to the left. If it's drifting forward, which is coming towards at us, you want to push your right stick to the back, and that's going to be a very important distinction. Now it might seem simple, but when you're flying your drone in the air, LOS, you're really going to have to master this, because sometimes when your FPV gear fails, you still want to be able to fly your drone LOS. Recently, mid-air, my FPV lens came loose, and it basically came out of focus, and I eventually lost that lens mid-air. So it's like having your eyes torn out while you're in mid-air. But thankfully, I still had enough LOS skills so I could see where my drone was pointing at, and I could maneuver my drone towards me, lower it to the ground, and land it safely. So I was able to recover my drone. But yeah, that is the key important thing about learning LOS. We know we want to be mastering FPV, but you still need to have this as your foundation. Just in case things go wrong, you still know how to maneuver your quad in LOS. So that is it for episode 1. We've learned how to hover in the air. We've learned how to move with our quad, how to rotate our quad up in the air, and still maintaining that steady flight. And we're trying to master that throttle control. And we've done it both tail in and nose in towards us, and so you want to keep practicing this until you really get the hang of it. Now we've only done nose in and tail in, but if you also want, you can also try at different orientations. So for example, 45 degrees to the right or 45 degrees to the left. So basically those are just going to be permutations of the drills that we already did. And once you're comfortable, then we can head on over to the next step in episode 2. Alright, so I hope that those drills are really drilled how to manage finer controls of flying an FPV LOS or line of sight into your fingers. So you want to do this with a lot more packs of battery packs, so that you just have that muscle memory. Your fingers get attuned even more about these fine adjustments, because as you noticed, when you're just starting to fly LOS or with a transmitter, your fingers are all over the place and they overcompensate. But over time, you're gonna learn to just make micro adjustments to keep that quad stable. So thank you again for watching, and do stay tuned for the next episode, because we are going to start learning how to fly forward. Alright, so keep building and keep flying.